21, where we talk hot topics, trending topics, what's going on on Instagram around the world, what's going on with the SNAP, federal workers. There's a lot going on right now. Allow me a few moments to get into my disclaimer, and then that way we can go ahead and get straight into the video. I hope everyone's having a great day, a great morning. Come on in, like the video, press 3. Let me know where you're watching from. Press 5 if you've been here before. We're going to get more into those, doing that again. I think it might help my page a little bit. But come on in, like the video. Thanks for being here. Just give me a few seconds to do my disclaimer. And oh yeah, did y'all notice Blueface is back home? And there's already drama surrounding that. What a mess. And it's toxic too, and concerning. So he has to be very careful because I'm sure he has a probation officer. He probably has to report. He needs Sean, period. Okay, so let me get into my disclaimer. Let's see. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comments, news reporting, teaching, scholarships, and research. Fair use is use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. All comments are alleged in our opinion and for entertainment purposes only. So come on in, like the video. We're going to go ahead and get into this
news in the shutdown fight after two major legal decisions. The White House saying it will be providing some food stamp benefits this month. Only half, though, of what SNAP recipients usually see.
Those benefits are, of course, usually deposited into accounts on the first of the month and were skipped because of the shutdown. Last Friday ruling that the White House must provide these benefits with money from a contingency fund. Let's go to CNN's Elena Treen, who is live at the White House. Elena, what are we learning here?
Yeah, well, what we're seeing now from these court rulings today is that the Trump administration will provide partial funding to continue one of the nation's largest, or I should say the largest, food stamp programs in the country. The U.S. Department of Agriculture, which oversees the SNAP program, had initially said that they were going to be freezing the money that goes to SNAP essentially on November 1st. Of course, this comes during the government shutdown. They said they were running out of money. But because these two judges had ruled that the Trump administration had to keep this program going, now we're learning that they said in a sworn statement, the agency is going to use roughly $4.6 billion from a contingency fund to help keep this up and running. Now, $4.6 billion is only about half of the money that is needed to keep this operating full time. So
good
we're
morning,
still
good
looking at
morning.
what this could mean once we hit that point. And to be clear, again, this is the nation's largest food program. It serves about 1 in 8 Americans, and of course is a major part of America's social safety net. And so this has been one of the key issues and concerns really as this government shutdown has continued. But now we're seeing they're going to pull on this contingency fund to at least pay for half of the money that they would normally during this time.
And Elena, during tomorrow's off-year elections, several key races could give us sort of a glimpse of how people feel about the economy and of course, the administration. New polling, though, shows that voters may not be impressed with President Trump. The data finds he's hitting his lowest approval rating this term, just 37%, his highest disapproval, matching January 2021. Democrats also showing a very early advantage when it comes to potentially flipping Congress in next year's midterms. What is behind these numbers?
Yeah, well, one of the really interesting things about all of this, Boris and Brianna, is that, White Houses normally shrug off these type of disapproval ratings, these poll numbers. But what we've seen the president do is actually entrench himself even deeper in some of the issues that this polling shows from CNN that Americans disagree with him on. For example, I would take immigration enforcement across the country. A majority of Americans, 57% in the CNN survey, said that they believe the Trump administration is going too far with its immigration enforcement. And the president was actually tonight when he appeared on 60 Minutes for an interview with Norah O'Donnell, and he said actually that he believes his administration is not going far enough. Of course, this comes, as we know, there's been a lot of uptick and criticism over the way that ICE has been handling some of these procedures, including breaking glass as they try to get into cards, their use of tear gas, the list goes on. So that's one area where we saw the president Another is the government shutdown. We're seeing in these polls that Republicans and the president are taking a lot of the blame, facing a lot of the political heat on this. But the president is still digging himself in deeper, saying it's up to the Democrats to open this. And he even brought up the idea of getting rid of the filibuster, essentially eradicating this precedent and trying to end the shutdown without any Democratic support. And so as we look at these numbers, 63% disapproval, you mentioned it, but that is a higher disapproval rating than he did have actually when he left office during his first term.
Elena Terrain, live for us at the White House. Thank you so much.
New today, the Trump administration says it will tap into a contingency fund to pay 50% of food stamp benefits.
Good morning. Good morning. Thanks for being here, everyone. Good morning, Anonymous. Thanks for being here, everyone. Like the video as you guys come in. Press 3 if you're new, where you're watching from. Press 3 if you're new, where you're watching from. Press 5 if you've been here before, where you're watching from.
In November, last week, 2 federal judges ordered the administration to use those emergency funds for roughly 42 million SNAP recipients. But now there are significant questions about when the payments will go out. In today's court filing, the U.S. Department of Agriculture said, quote, for at least some states, USDA's understanding is that the system changes states must implement to provide the reduced benefit amounts will take anywhere from a few weeks to up to several months. With us now to discuss, we have Democratic Congresswoman Sarah McBride of Delaware. Congresswoman, that is a dire warning there. First off, do you think this shutdown could go through Thanksgiving?
Well, I certainly hope not. I am down in Washington, D.C. Today and this week, ready to work with colleagues to reopen government to solve this healthcare crisis and to guarantee that there are not disruptions in critical programs like SNAP. Unfortunately, congressional Republicans continue to be on vacation. They are nowhere to be seen. I hope we can reopen government before Thanksgiving. I hope we reopen government tomorrow and do so in a bipartisan and compassionate way. While I'm glad that we will see at least some federal funding move forward during this shutdown for SNAP, this was a choice that Donald Trump made, that Republicans made, to call into question this life-saving benefit. And they are now only partially moving forward with funding because their hands have been forced by the courts. The cruelty has been the point throughout this for Donald Trump and congressional Republicans. We continue to be ready to reopen government as soon as humanly possible so federal workers get paid, so that SNAP and other benefits aren't disrupted, and to do so in a way that solves this healthcare crisis that my constituents are already seeing skyrocketing premiums from.
Yeah, so let's talk about that, because at this point, open enrollment is underway now. So people signing up for ACA open enrollment is starting to see what insurance costs without the tax credit. As you are relying on pressure from those folks as they make their voices heard, how long does that take? And what if that isn't enough?
Well, I'm already hearing from constituents. I've been hearing from constituents throughout this shutdown that they want to see government open and they want to see us extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits. Over this last weekend, millions and millions of Americans went on to healthcare.gov and started to see premiums that in some cases were increasing 100, 300%. And it's incumbent upon those Americans to reach out to their members of Congress to express their outrage at these skyrocketing premiums and to demand that Democrats and Republicans work together to reopen government and extend these ACA premiums. The Republicans have acknowledged that this is an issue. We have even very far right-wing colleagues in the House that this is an issue. I think that's only going to increase as Americans lift their voices. But Republicans ultimately are going to have to listen to the American people and join Democrats at the negotiating tables to solve this crisis. Look, it's on Republicans to figure this out. They control the House, the Senate, and the White House.
No, but let me.
And so I'm not going to sit here and.
But you're in the House,
yeah.
But you know in the Senate, there's a 60-vote threshold. The president is calling for that, the nuclear option, to get rid of that. And I hear you say, you're saying Republicans are making a choice. Democrats are also making a choice, and it has to do with these Medicaid cuts, and it has to do with these ACA subsidies, yes, but it is also a choice, right? And CNN has polling out today that shows 58% of Americans are disapproving of, yes, Republican congressional leaders, how they're handling this, but 58% are disapproving of how Democratic congressional leaders are handling it, 61% disapproving of how President Trump is handling it. So all of you being held to account here. What is your read of what that poll is saying?
Like the video, like the video. Fair use reaction clip. Please hit the subscribe button. Please hit the like button. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
To account here. What is your read of what that poll is saying?
No one wants a shutdown. That's what that poll is saying. And time again, Senate Democrats have voted for a continuing resolution that opens government and solves this healthcare crisis. Republicans have chosen to vote against that. They have every opportunity to work with us to do both of these things. And they know that we do not have the luxury of waiting. As you mentioned, open enrollment started on the 1st. There's not the luxury of time here, and Republicans need to wake up to that fact. But I think the reality is no one wants a shutdown. Democrats don't want to shut down. The American people don't want to shut down. We also don't want to see healthcare premiums skyrocket. And Republicans are so committed to healthcare being cut that they are willing to resist any kind of negotiation, and they are willing to subject this country to a shutdown because they don't want to protect healthcare. That's the reality of it, and that's the choice that they're making.
But isn't it also true the Democrats don't want those cuts, and so they are willing to subject the country to a shutdown as well? I mean, this is a choice about different priorities, different values, but it requires the votes of both parties.
It's a false choice to have to choose between keeping government open and solving this healthcare crisis. We're choosing to fight for both. Republicans are choosing to fight for only one. And the reality is if they want the votes necessary to pass a resolution, they have to work with Democrats or go the president's route with a nuclear option of eliminating the filibuster. They have a choice on how they want to pursue the path forward on that. But if they want votes to have a continuing resolution, they're going to have to work with Democrats. That's the reality of democracy. That's the reality of representative government. That's the reality of the United States Senate. And they are putting forward to the American people a false choice. We are saying we can do both and we have to do both. That's the choice we are making.
It is obviously such a crucial time right now in the shutdown, and we appreciate you being with us. Congresswoman Sarah McBride, thank you.
Like the video, like the video. Fair use reaction clip. Like the video as you guys come in. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Be cut in half, but they'll also be significantly delayed. Today, the Trump administration, under court order, said it would authorize reduced payments of SNAP food benefits this month. Not only will these payments be cut in half, but they'll also be significantly delayed. Across the country, nonprofit organizations and other entities are working overtime to try to narrow the gap imposed by these reduced benefits by organizing food drives and surging resources to food banks. The patchwork efforts to compensate for a massive government program face significant obstacles and limited resources. Joining us to discuss, the president of Catholic Charities USA, Carrie Alice Robinson, and the CEO of Share Our Strength, Ann Philip.
Welcome to you both. Carrie Alice, I want to start with you because I'm very familiar with the work of Catholic Charities, having served on our local Catholic Charities board here in the Archdiocese of Washington, and seen firsthand the work that a lot of other hands out there don't see, right? And at a time like this, talk about what you all have been doing, the suddenness, the abruptness you have, going back to federal employees who've been laid off indiscriminately and suddenly now finding themselves in need for food and help for their families. And then, of course, this past weekend with SNAP benefits and other benefits hitting the Trump wall and not being available to families. How is Catholic Charities USA and the local Catholic charities around the country addressing this moment? And what...
Good morning, Paris. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I hope all is well. Thanks for being here. Saw an interesting video last night. I might post it in members. But yeah. And if I do, I'll post it later on tonight. Very, 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 very interesting. I think that's how you guys memberships, you need to get over there, because I'm going to start posting stuff and it's all going to be alleged, but the very, very interesting post, very interesting. So Paris, try and look for that tonight. Yeah, very interesting. It kind of explains everything, but I saved it. I did save it, but yeah, I think that's where we're going to start having communication over there. So you guys need to start doing memberships because baby, certain stuff I see, I be like, well, and see, this is the other thing. My page has to be careful because y'all know AI is out there. So memberships are over there. I see interesting things when I'm posting my shorts. So I almost posted, but I said, I want to see if other people are going to talk about that same thing. You know me, I have to see if 3 or 4 people talk about it. But if I do it over there by memberships, I can say allegedly and kind of go from there. So y'all gonna need to go over there to y'all gonna have to start doing your memberships. Real talk. Very interesting. And I almost posted it, but you know me, Paris. I almost like to see 3 people talk about it. Because if I don't see 3 or 4 people talk about it, I don't want to be the only one putting that narrative out there. You know me, I'm very careful about posting stuff. But if I do it in membership, I can do it in membership and say allegedly. So yeah, sometimes when I need to show you stuff, that's where I'll post it, even if it's 1 or 2 minutes. Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, smart. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it almost explains a lot. I'm not going because people need to do their membership. It kind of explains a lot. And you know what I've been see, that's the one thing. You know what I've been covering, but didn't want to cover it because it became very interesting. So yeah, you guys better get over there and get the memberships. And it's interesting that I haven't really seen anybody talk about that. And member well, no, I'm gonna let it be in memberships. Yeah, gotta get over memberships, baby. And that's the other thing. I see stuff that people don't sometimes I'll think something and then I'll see a video and I'll post it in my shorts. And it's like they explained it better. So you get a lot of information from my shorts as well. But last night I saw 2 people post about it, but it was kind of like, is that AI? And that's the other thing too. I needed to see another video showing that same situation and if they were standing there. And you know what's also interesting, Paris? I kept telling everybody, look to the right, look to the right, look to the right. And I was right. I was so right. I was so right. I was so right. I did another short that talked about last night how they're stating the guy, nope, y'all got to get those memberships. Get those memberships because if I say it, then y'all gonna be like, oh, that's what. No, Paris, I'll drop that tonight. I'll drop it tonight, Paris. All right, let's continue with regards to Snap and all that information. Yep, that's what we're gonna start doing, Paris. I'm gonna drop those in memberships, even if I just do 1 or 2 a week. That kind of helps. But yeah, very interesting.
What is the expectation
Very.
that you have in terms of the resources? Because even those are limited in many cases, as you know.
So we exist to serve and help vulnerable.
Ain't nobody spreading no misinformation. You must not know me. I make sure I see resources from several different areas. Paris will tell you, and certain things I tell her to go look at, she knows more information than a lot of y'all because certain stuff I don't talk about my on my page. I protect my page. But BC, you got to realize sometimes, let me see. Oh no, I don't watch fake news. If I'm watching anything, I'm watching legal people, information. You must not know my page. I'm not dumb. I'm not stupid. I'm very educated. See, that's very interesting how people will try and distract you from getting information. And see, a lot of people that's on my page, that's why I get almost half a million of views, sometimes a million views per month. What are you getting? I'm different. I don't put out false narratives. I don't put out fake news. I watch what I see and I have to see it from different resources. Some people rush to be first. I never rush to be first. I never rush to be first. I don't need to be first. That's what's different than my page. That's what's different than my page. Yeah, so it's all good. So let's continue with the news. Let's continue with the news.
And poor people in all 50 states, in the District of Columbia, and in the 5 U.S. territories.
Be kind in the comments. I will block you. See, other pages won't block people, but I'll block you. I don't take disrespect. Because if my man ain't disrespecting, my family ain't disrespecting, my friends ain't disrespecting, I am not gonna be disrespected by people that's in the comments. What? No, I don't know you. Go somewhere else.
territories. We have a
And
special
will.
focus on the most vulnerable among us. And a big part of what we do is provide food. We also provide safe shelter and behavioral health services. And we serve as a kind of point of hope for people desperately looking for hope. Now with the rise,
Yeah, trying to share real news, and I never need to be first. There's pages that try to be first. I don't need to be first because I have too busy of a schedule to be first. I do what I do in the morning in regards to my live, and then I do my shorts at night. So even in my regards to my shorts, I just post whatever I want in regards to my shorts. But yeah, Paris, we're gonna get that all the way together. And I'll try and do maybe one or two members only. But that last night was like, dang. And like I said, I saw it twice, so that's kind of, but I did save it too. So I did save it. So yeah, my page is a little different than other pages. Let's continue, fair use.
of insecurity and real anxiety around where the next meal might come from or how to feed one's family. We have just seen our clients really struggle. It is heartbreaking, and honestly, an urgent crisis for our country right now. And this really strikes me that I want to be very clear that any funding for this program, whether it's partial or full, I think is important because there are folks that rely on.
Yes, thank you for subscribing, Lady Wiser. Thank you for subscribing. I appreciate that.
This money every month to go on their EBT card. There are people that rely on the Head Starts to be open. There are folks that have no idea what they're going to do if the WIC if the WIC program is not fully funded. And so any kind of relief is crucial here. But it strikes me that the partial funding and the government saying, well, now we're just going to do it a little bit, when they could make the decision to fund it fully, does not take into account the human.
He's saying, let's see.
Toll. The people who are really struggling trying to figure out what am I not going to buy or what am I not going to pay? What bill am I going to be late on so that I can provide food for my family? Talk to me about the human toll that you are seeing through your work here. And do I have that right? Because I think people hear partial payments like, oh, great, this will be in folks' bank accounts this weekend. That's not how this works.
Exactly. Well, let me begin by underscoring how unprecedented and completely unnecessary this hunger crisis is. Never in the history of SNAP has any White House or any Congress failed to fund SNAP and allowed benefits to lapse. And yet that's exactly what we're facing now. And because of that, 42 million people woke up on Saturday morning and again yesterday, again today, and will tomorrow, unsure of how they're going to pay for groceries for the rest of the month. So yes, we are grateful that the U.S. courts clarified for the USDA that they have not only the option but the obligation to use SNAP contingency funds to fund this program. But as you noted, that is only partially funding it. And today the Trump administration said that it could take weeks to months for those funds to get in the hands of recipients. The American people do not have weeks to months to figure out how to pay for groceries and feed their families.
I think it's easy to focus on this immediate crisis because this immediate crisis is real. But let's say, tomorrow the government reopens and SNAP benefits are reinstated and this is all of a sudden the review. It's not really, right? One, because we still have an ongoing hunger crisis in the richest country in the world. There were some parts of the recent budget bill that are going to shift the burden of SNAP to states, the financial piece of this to states. If we were having a real conversation about hunger in the United States that were devoid of partisan politics, what would it actually look like to talk about the face of hunger and what is necessary in order to make sure that our neighbors and the folks we worship with and the folks we go to school with are not living with hunger? See, I think that this can actually be a moment of unity and bridge building because it should not be the case that a child goes to bed hungry in the richest country in the world. It should not be the case that working poor people have to choose between rent and feeding their families. It should not be that elderly are so insecure about their next meal. It's so basic in terms of human dignity that I think all people of goodwill can come together around this and putting a human face on it. These are our neighbors. They're in every state, in every community. And I'm appealing to people of goodwill to treat this with the urgency that it deserves.
And that's the thing. The elderly was already struggling. Families was already struggling with the price of food. The price of food is high. They were already struggling. Families were already struggling with the price of food and trying to pay bills in places where they live. Rent is going up. Taxes is going up. What? It's sad. It's really sad. Thank goodness if you have a partner. If you're a single parent, I can't even imagine.
Republica. One change would be to update the job. The Trump administration is proposing changes to Social Security disability benefits that will make access to those benefits significantly harder, according to new reporting from ProPublica. One change would be to update the job listings used to determine whether a worker has the skills to do another less strenuous job instead of receiving assistance. Another change would almost entirely remove age as a criteria for eligibility, putting the applications of older workers in the same pool as younger workers. If adopted in its current form, ProPublica reports that as many as 1.5 million Americans could lose eligibility over the next decade, and workers in Republican-led states will be hit the hardest. Joining us now, ProPublica reporter Eli Hager. Eli, thanks for joining us. Let's start small. Tell me about one of the people you interviewed for this story and how these new changes might affect him.
Sure. I interviewed somebody named Christopher Tincher, who's a 55-year-old in rural Arkansas. He's been a working person his whole life. He started out his working career working in coal mines in Kentucky and West Virginia. And he's worked at Walmart, and he's been a long-distance trucker and all these kinds of jobs. He eventually lost, through some of his work that he was doing at a wastewater facility, he lost his leg and is probably going to have to lose his other leg. And he qualified for disability benefits in part because he's 55, and eligibility is in the current system increases when you're in your 50s. It makes it a little bit easier to get benefits because you've been through.
And some people are not lazy. Yes, cleaning houses, you can make decent money. You could do Uber, Lyft. You could do different driving things, but you got to be careful in regards to that. This is not, but a lot of people are struggling, and you got to realize they're stating that Amazon have laid off people. They're stating that other places have laid off people. So those people, it takes time to get unemployment. So those people, even federal workers, are going to work, but they're not even getting the paycheck. So there's a lot of people struggling and going to work, and they're not getting paid. Look at air traffic controllers. They're not getting paid. So they're taking other jobs on, and the lines are very long. I saw a video this morning about the lines are very long at airports. So there's a lot going on, not just food stamps. There's a lot going on. It's concerning.
That lifetime of work, and it's harder for you to switch careers at that point. So the Trump rule would change that system of eligibility increasing by age.
So if there was also a less strenuous job eligibility requirement, would Tincher then have to apply for jobs that would be, I guess, less of a burden on him in terms of mobility?
Right. So two things would happen. Number one, somebody like him, I can't say what would happen exactly in his case, but somebody like him with that experience, their age would no longer be taken into account. So they would be treated the same in the disability adjudication as the 20-something. And then secondly, the jobs listings would be updated. So it would show that, say in his area of Arkansas, there is this sort of low-skilled, more sedentary job behind a computer that maybe he could do. In his view and the view of disability advocates and union leaders, that sort of pulls the rug out from working class people who have, only done a certain type of manual job their whole life, whether it's in coal mining or logging or construction work. And those are the skills that they have. And now they're being told that actually the system is changing now that they've reached their most medically vulnerable years. And that they're.
Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. Like the video as you guys come in. Press 3 if you're new and where you're watching from. Press 3 if you're new and where you're watching from. And Paris knows this really well. I could have been pushing a lot of memberships a long time ago. Memberships. But I knew my schedule only allows me so much. But now that there's so much that's the best way for me to put out information for my members. You know what I'm saying? So my page, I don't push a lot of I'm not going to start until 10 people send me a super chat. Paris knows my page is a little different. Shoot. Like the videos you guys come in.
Governor, thanks so much for taking the time.
It's great to be with you, Brian. Thanks, man.
So you have a that I want to give the floor to you for on an issue that I've been particularly focused on.
Absolutely. At a time when we were watching Donald Trump commence this assault, and not just this assault on our state, but honestly this assault on our democracy. I have said, and I will continue to say, that Maryland will not just sit on its hands while Donald Trump continues to pick and choose which states have fair maps and which states don't, when we know he's just trying to rig the rules because he knows it's the only way for him to win an election. And so I have ordered the creation of a governor's redistricting advisory committee here in the state of Maryland, where I have assembled a group of bipartisan leaders, which is going to be chaired by Senator Angela Alsop-Brooks, who is going to spend time listening to Marylanders and going all around and hearing where Marylanders are on this issue. But with a very firm understanding that come next November in Maryland, we will have fair maps. And as all these states are going through their process of deciding whether or not they have fair maps or not, I'm here to say that so will Maryland.
So this is great news, and it sounds like, because you had mentioned that this would be in place for November of 2026, that things are getting off right now, that this will actually count for the upcoming midterm election cycle. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. The work commences immediately. And so the committee is already now working, pulling together what they need to ensure that we can understand where the maps are in Maryland and making sure that the people have a right to come next November truly have the representation that represents their interest and not allowing Donald Trump to just simply rig elections. And so in this time, I've decided that I'm not going to spend my time nor intellectual energy trying to say why we cannot move, but we are going to spend our time and our intellectual energy actually moving and making sure that the people of our state, that their voices are heard.
We've seen a lot of different avenues taken by different governors or different states. Here in California, we have Prop 50 on the ballot. In Virginia, the state legislature already moved to pass a bill in one session. Of course, we need 2 consecutive sessions for that to be a change.
Thank you, Paris. It's saying Paris sent a party hat. Thank you, Paris. You know me, I'm still learning a lot in regards to different, because I clicked a lot of buttons 2 weeks ago. So that was buttons I should have clicked like a year ago. Thank you, Paris. I appreciate you always, for sure.
The Constitution, but there are different avenues being tried in different states in accordance with whatever their state's laws are. Why did you opt to go the committee route in Maryland?
Yeah, because the reason that I ordered the Governor's Redistricting Advisory Commission is because this is a necessary and important first step that we have to be able to take. Because the thing that we know is that in order for lines to be drawn in our state, it requires legislative approval. And so I'm just using my power as the governor to say, let's make sure that that legislative process is informed. Let's make sure that legislative process is actually backed by the will of the people. Let's make sure that legislative process actually addresses the challenges that I think exist. Because what people have to remember is that the legislative maps that we have right now in the state of Maryland were actually drawn in 3 days. And if you look at the congressional maps that we have around the country,
we'll get back to him. Like the videos, y'all come in. Like the videos, you guys come in. Thanks for being here. Thanks for subscribing. Hit the like button, you guys. There's about 139 in the building. Please hit the like button.
Right now, about this presidential term and about how things are going in the country right now, well, there's lots of new data on that I can show you right now. Let's start with the new CNN poll. New CNN poll shows that Donald Trump has never been more unpopular than he is right now. Donald Trump's disapproval rating in this new CNN poll, it's actually higher. His disapproval rating is higher than it was in the immediate aftermath of January 6th. After January 6th, a whopping 62% of Americans said they disapproved of Trump. Today, the number of Americans who say they disapprove of Donald Trump is not 62%, it is 63%. 63% disapprove, only 37% approve of Trump. Right now, he is 26 points underwater in terms of his approval rating with the American people. That's astonishing. Elsewhere in the CNN poll, we learned that Americans say that Trump has hurt America's standing in the world more than helped it. And they say that by a 24-point margin. Since he has been back in office, he has hurt America's standing in the world more than he has helped it. America, how do you feel about Trump tearing down the East Wing of the White House? Well, 10% of Americans say they like that. His support on that is 10%. More than 5 times as many Americans say him doing that makes them feel dissatisfied or angry. He's underwater by 44 points on tearing down the East Wing of the White House to build his ballroom. Washington Post, ABC News Ipsos poll is also just out. Trump's overall approval rating in that poll, he's underwater minus 18. In this poll, right after January 6th, his disapproval rating spiked to 60%. Again, that's right after January 6th, disapproval 60%. Today in this poll, it's 59% disapproval, which means in this poll, he is within 1 point of where he was in the immediate wake of his supporters laying violent siege to the U.S. Capitol in a failed attempt to try to seize power by force. And they asked the question here, not just bluntly, do you approve or disapprove of Trump, but they asked it a little nuance to it in a way that is always interesting to me, because even if you are not a supporter of President Trump, let's say, everybody knows somebody who is a really strong supporter of Trump, right? I mean, whether it's a coworker or...
I think I didn't really care for them yesterday. You think people really like what he's doing right now? Are you kidding me?
or an uncle or some other family member. Maybe there's a neighbor down the street who's got all the Trump flags on his truck or whatever. I mean, everybody knows somebody, and the national media pays so much attention to people who are strong Trump supporters. But how many of them are there? Well, look at this. This again is that Washington Post ABC News Ipsos poll. Trump's overall approval rating is minus 18. He's 18 points underwater overall. But if you look at the nuance, if you look at the people who feel strongly, the proportion of Americans who strongly approve of Trump is 20%. The proportion of Americans who strongly disapprove of Trump is 46%. People who strongly disapprove of Trump outnumber the people who strongly approve of him by significantly more than 2 to 1. And Americans disapprove of him on everything. America, do you approve of Donald Trump in his handling of Israel's war in Gaza? No, minus 6. Do you approve of Trump's handling of crime? No, minus 11. Do you approve of Trump's handling of immigration? No, minus 13. Do you approve of Trump's management of our relationship with other countries? No, minus 19. Do you approve of Trump's handling of the Russia-Ukraine war? No, minus 21. Do you approve of Trump's handling of the economy? No, minus 25. Do you approve of Trump's management of the federal government? No, minus 27. Do you approve of Trump's handling of tariffs, his signature issue, what he most wants to be known for in this presidential term? Do you approve of Donald Trump's handling of tariffs? No, Americans do not approve of him on tariffs. He's minus 32 on that issue. Since Trump has been back in office, has he made the United States weaker or stronger? Americans say Trump has made the United States weaker, and they say so by a 15-point margin. Should ICE agents be wearing masks out in the street? No, 16-point margin. Should Trump be sending the National Guard to states over the objections of those states' governors? No, 18-point margin. The criminal charges that Trump has demanded against James Comey and John Bolton, are those criminal charges justified, or are those politically motivated bogus prosecutions? Americans say those charges are politically motivated by a 13 and 14-point margin. America, do you like the fact that Trump is tearing down the White House East Wing to build his ballroom? No. In this poll, no. Americans say they do not like that by a 28-point margin. How about Trump's plan to take $230 million for himself from the U.S. Justice Department, supposedly as some kind of compensation for all he wants the federal government to write him a check for $230 million. America, do you like that idea?
That in itself is some crazy work. That's crazy work.
Shockingly, no. By a 42-point margin, Americans say no. They hate that idea very much. Thank you. And it's not just the CNN poll and that Washington Post poll. There's the new NBC poll, which unfolds along much the same lines. The NBC poll has Trump's approval rating 12 points underwater. And again, they do that nuance. How strong are your feelings? Americans who strongly disapprove of Trump outnumber Americans who strongly approve of him by a whopping 18 points in the NBC poll.
Like the video. Fair use, reaction clip. Like the video as y'all come in.
18 points in the NBC poll. Here's my new favorite polling question, though. This is from the NBC poll. I'd like it if all national pollsters would please start asking this. Do you consider yourself to be a supporter of the No Kings protest movement? That's how they ask the question. What do you think the answer is to that? What proportion of the American public says they consider themselves to be a supporter of the No Kings movement in this country? What do you think the number's going to be? I mean, for context, in this same poll, in this NBC poll, they also asked people if they consider themselves to be a supporter of the MAGA movement, the Make America Great Again movement, the Trump movement. The proportion of Americans who said they consider themselves to be a MAGA supporter is 30%. I should note that's fallen by 6 points in the past 6 months in the same poll, but still, that's okay. Round number, understandable number, 30% of Americans say they consider themselves to be a supporter of the MAGA movement. Compared to that, what proportion of Americans say they are a supporter of the No Kings movement? 43%. 43% of this country says they consider themselves to be a supporter of the No Kings protest movement, which means not only does the base of support for the No Kings movement absolutely dwarf the base of support for MAGA in this country, but in absolute terms, it also means that support for No Kings, support for the No Kings movement against Trump, it's just huge. I mean, 43% of this country, that's 147 million people. I think we're going to need a bigger boat. I mean, that number is absolutely stunning to me. I got to say, I have covered the heck out of the No Kings movement as it has taken shape from the very outset of this presidential term for Trump. I would have thought organizers and participants in these protests would be whooping and
Let's get the likes up, you guys. 130 in the building. 31 likes. The likes should match the views. The like should match the views. All you have to do is double tap the screen, you'll see the thumbs up button. All you have to do is double tap the screen, you'll see the like button. If you don't see that, you can backspace, see the thumbs up button. To hit the like is free. To hit the like is free. To subscribe is free. Super chats are welcome, but you know, to hit the like button is free. Yeah, let's continue.
Coloring and cheering if they learned that they had 10% support in this country or 15% support in this country. 43%? Well, MAGA support is 30% and it's been dropping hard since Trump has been back in office. I don't know what terrible numbers like these for Trump and terrible numbers like these for his MAGA movement are going to mean for tomorrow's elections. I will tell you, CNN asked about it in sort of a roundabout way in their poll. CNN asked, if you were voting for Congress today, would you think of your vote as being more to send a message of support to Trump, or would you think of your vote as being a message of opposition to Trump? They asked that question in the new CNN poll, and the proportion of Americans who said they wanted their vote to be seen as a message of support for Trump, that proportion is 21%. The proportion of Americans who said they wanted their vote to be a message of opposition to Trump was nearly twice that, 41%. So, I mean, read into that what you may. You're a business leader watching this right now thinking about, I wonder if we should continue to do things to really kowtow to Trump and to really seem to be putting our thumb on the scale in order to please Trump. I wonder if that'll be good for our bottom line. Take a little temperature of the public here, guys. You're aligning yourself with something pretty radically and deeply unpopular. And what is Trump himself doing to make himself more to the American people as we head toward tomorrow's election day? Well, on the eve of tomorrow's vote, the administration cut off SNAP food benefits for 42 million of the poorest Americans, including many, 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 many millions of Republican voters. The SNAP program goes back to the Great Depression. It has never cut people off before, but the Trump administration cut people off as of Saturday. And then today, only when forced by a federal court in Rhode Island, did they begrudgingly concede that they might half fund SNAP benefits. And who knows for how long. Meanwhile, literally at the same time he is cutting off food aid to 40+ million Americans, Trump was bragging online about the new marble and gold-toned bathroom he just built himself at the White House. At your expense. He held a party at his mansion at Mar-a-Lago, which had a roaring 20s Great Gatsby theme, because it reminded me again what happened right at the end of the roaring 20s. Google 1929 to see what comes up.
Like the video, like the video. Fair use reaction clip. Like the video as you guys come in. Like the video as you guys come in. I appreciate everyone for being here. Don't forget to continue to hit the subscribe button. Let's get the likes up. Let's get the likes up. It actually pushes me into the algorithm. And if it's a free button to hit, wouldn't you want me to be in the algorithm better? Yes. Let's continue.
Tonight in this country, if you disapprove of Donald Trump's presidency, a new poll finds the highest disapproval number that Donald Trump has ever had. If you disapprove of the job Donald Trump is doing as president, you are joined by 63% of Americans in that disapproval. That is 1 percentage point higher than the disapproval Donald Trump achieved in the same poll in the second week of January 2021 after he told a Trump-supporting mob to go to the Capitol and fight like hell. More Americans disapprove of Donald Trump tonight than they did after the January 6th attack on the Capitol. And you are not alone tonight if you disapprove of Donald Trump's handling of the government shutdown. You are part of the 61% majority who disapprove of Donald Trump's handling of the government shutdown. You are not alone tonight if you blame Donald Trump for worsening economic conditions. 61% blame Donald Trump's policies for worsening economic conditions. You are not alone tonight in this country if you think the country is moving in the wrong direction. According to a new ABC News poll, 2/3 of the country believes that. 67% say the country is moving in the wrong direction. ABC News notes majorities of Americans in urban, suburban, and rural areas say the country is moving in the wrong direction, as well as those with varying levels of education and income. That is a powerful polling result in a country that usually has significant differences between urban, suburban, and rural areas, and significant differences in polling among varying levels of education and income. But majorities of Americans in all of those categories believe the country is moving in the wrong direction. So you are not alone no matter where you live in this country if you think Donald Trump is moving the country in the wrong direction. In that same ABC News poll, 64% of Americans say Trump is going too far in trying to expand the power of the presidency. In 288 days in the presidency this time, Donald Trump has managed to unify the country in disapproval of him. The ABC News poll shows majorities of Americans also disapprove of how Trump is handling every issue measured in the poll. Over 6 in 10 disapprove of how Trump is handling tariffs, the economy, and managing government. About 6 in 10 disapprove of how he is handling the situation involving Russia and Ukraine and relations with other countries. More than half disapprove of how he is handling immigration, crime, and the situation with Israel and Gaza. He does not have approval from most Americans on a single issue measured. Donald Trump is losing the American people on every single issue. The ABC News poll also shows, quote, majority of Americans also say Trump is going too far, trying to expand the power of the presidency, laying off government employees to cutting the size of the federal workforce, sending the National Guard to patrol U.S. cities, and trying to make changes in how U.S. colleges and universities operate. And so we can see tonight, Donald Trump is going too far, but the country is not going with him. The ABC News poll shows that Donald Trump has his worst polling numbers ever handling the economy, with 62% of Americans disapproving of how Trump is handling the economy. But polling indicates that even though Donald Trump has lied to every American, every time he has described his tariffs, telling the lie that other countries pay those tariffs, even though Donald Trump has been pushing that lie for 10 years now, a majority of Americans know better. A majority of Americans know what tariffs are. A majority of Americans know that they and they alone pay the Trump tariffs. Here is Donald Trump's written response to the new polling showing his record high disapproval, and a majority of Americans blaming him for worsening economic conditions, and a majority of Americans disagreeing with him on every issue. Donald Trump says, I have the best numbers I have ever had. Donald Trump, of course, turns to a classic Trump lie in the face of his worst polling numbers. And then he adds the lie that he has, quote, kept prices, inflation, and taxes down. In fact, prices and inflation are up, and Donald Trump's tariffs are, in fact, taxes. And so, Donald Trump is the first Republican president in 35 years to raise taxes, which he did enthusiastically all by himself with his tariffs, which are sales taxes paid by Americans. The last Republican president who was in any way dragged into an involvement in raising taxes was the first President Bush, who agreed to a budget deal with a Congress controlled by the Democratic Party in 1990 that included some modest tax increases. George H.W. Bush did that very reluctantly, but Donald Trump has enthusiastically raised taxes through tariffs and tells Americans the lie that they don't have to pay those Trump taxes. And when polls show that most Americans know that Donald Trump is lying about that, Donald Trump lies about the polls, calls them fake polls by the radical left media. The polls tomorrow are going to produce results that Donald Trump is going to have to live with when voters in California voted on a redistricting plan that could add possibly 5 Democratic seats to the House of Representatives, and when voters choose their next governors in Virginia and New Jersey, where President Obama campaigned for the Democrats this weekend.
I created
Like the video, like the video. Like the video, fair use, reaction clip. Reaction clip. All I ask is that everyone be kind in the comments. Continue to get the likes up, everyone.
Economy working better for you. Because it sure has gotten better for Trump and his family. Since he's been in office, the family crypto business and other ventures have made hundreds of millions of dollars and getting investment from foreign nationals and rich folks looking to stay in the president's good graces. The economy has been really good for some of Trump's billionaire friends. And it's been good for some finance pros and well-connected corporations who've seen their tax bill go down and don't have to worry about all those pesky regulators anymore. But for ordinary families, for you, your neighbors, your friends, costs have not gone down, they've gone up. Partly because of Trump's shambolic.
Obama should be somewhere relaxing, but he has to y'all what's really going on. He should be relaxing, but see, people are so not awake, they sleep, that Obama literally has to go out on the campaign trail to speak to the people, to tell them what's really going on. But some people still don't get it. If it's not affecting their homes directly, they still don't get it. It could be affecting the elderly, which it is. It could be affecting the, which it is, and it could be affecting the children, which it is.
policy.
Donald Trump now wants you to believe that his pardon policy is as shambolic as his tariff policy. Donald Trump's defense of a pardon for a cryptocurrency billionaire was to claim that he has no idea who that convicted criminal is, who he, Donald Trump, chose to pardon.
The Trump family.
Y'all remember that yesterday? He said he don't even know the guy that he allegedly pardoned. Hello? How you pardoning people and you don't know them? They're about to tell you right now. Listen to this.
Is now perhaps more associated with cryptocurrency than real estate. You and your sons, Don Jr. and Eric, have formed World Liberty Financial with the Witkoff family,
Right.
helping to make your family millions of dollars. It's in that context that I do want to ask you about crypto's richest man, a billionaire known as CZ. He pled guilty in 2023 to violating anti-money laundering laws.
Right.
The government at the time said that CZ had caused significant harm to U.S. national security, essentially by allowing terrorist groups like Hamas to move millions of dollars around. Why did you pardon him?
Okay, are you ready? I don't know who he is. I know he got a 4-month sentence or something like that, and I heard it was a Biden witch hunt.
In 2025, his crypto exchange Binance helped facilitate a $2 billion purchase of World Liberty Financial's stablecoin. And then you pardoned CZ. How do you address the appearance of pay for play?
Well, here's the thing. I know nothing about it because I'm too busy doing the other.
But
I
you
can
got a
only tell
pardon.
you this.
But you got a
No, I
pardon.
can only tell you this. My sons are into it. I'm glad they are because it's probably a great industry, crypto. I think it's good. You know, they're running a business. They're not in government.
If you live in a Michigan zip code and
Like the video. Like the video. Fair use reaction clip. Let's continue.
And then there's this from the Republican Speaker of the House.
Last week, you came here to these mics and you were very critical of Joe Biden's auto plan, his pardon. You said you didn't even know he was pardoning. The last night on 60 Minutes, President Trump, he did it not knowing he pardoned a crypto billionaire who was guilty to money laundering. Does that also concern you?
I don't know anything about that. I didn't see the interview. You have to ask the president about that. I'm not sure.
So did the auto pen do it? Is that where that pardon came from? Of the crypto billionaire? Just imagine, if you will, that Joe Biden issued a pardon to a billionaire that he and his son were in business with. Republicans would have obviously immediately moved to impeach.
Be kind in the comments. Be kind in the comments. Press 3 if you're new, where you're watching from. Press 3 if you're new, where you're watching from. Press 5 if you've been here before and where you're watching from.
President Biden if he did something like that. And the White House press corps would have never stopped literally screaming about it in the White House press briefing room and screaming directly.
If I missed something, Paris, feel free to time somebody out for 30 minutes. My page is a little different. Sometimes people will say, oh, don't time them out, let them be. No, my page is a little different. You're going to respect me, you're going to respect Paris, and you're going to respect the chat. Real talk. If they get out of control, Paris, just time them out.
At President Biden whenever they got a chance to scream at him. And then imagine that Joe Biden tried to defend that pardon to a billionaire who was making him and his son rich by saying, quote, I know nothing about it. President Biden would have been accused of lying or dementia or both. And quite understandably, no Democrat would have defended a Democratic president for issuing such a corrupt pardon. Donald Trump's actual motivation for the pardon of the criminal who has made Donald Trump and his sons richer was, here's the thing, quote, here's the thing, I know nothing about it because...
This comment is very, everybody needs to chill out. The CIA, what are y'all talking about? Be kind in the comments. Don't be weird. I guess people wake up weird.
Too busy doing the other. He never told us what the other is. If Donald Trump had said in that interview, I know nothing about it, he had been asked about tariffs, I would have welcomed that answer as Donald Trump finally telling the truth. He knows nothing about tariffs. Donald Trump knows absolutely nothing about a lot of things. But Donald Trump knows where his money comes from. Donald Trump knows who makes money for him. Donald Trump knows who gives him money. What the new polls show us is that it's not working. The Trump method is not working. The Trump lies about tariffs or the economy are not working. The majority of Americans don't believe Donald Trump on those things and disapprove of Donald Trump. And when Donald Trump says, I know nothing about it, it is safe to assume he knows a lot about it. And when Donald Trump says he doesn't know anything about the Epstein files after having reportedly been briefed on the Epstein files and the number of times his name appears in the Epstein files by his attorney general, you have a right to assume that Donald Trump knows more about the Epstein files than he is admitting, and knows more about Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell than he is admitting. Today, the Democratic leader of the House of Representatives, Hakeem Jeffries, said that the Republican-controlled House of Representatives is, quote, running the pedophile protection program, end quote.
Which is
by refusing
crazy.
to allow a vote by the House on the release of the Epstein files. That phrase.
How was Epstein and Maxwell the only ones fired? I mean, put in jail or prison, whatever. How is that possible? That's so twisted. All the people that were involved should have been arrested when he was arrested. Period. That's so crazy. Why is it taking so long to release those files? All that should have been released a long time ago.
Came in the middle of an animated answer to the question, would tomorrow's election day result possibly help put an end to the government shutdown?
All Republicans care about is the opinion of one man, the puppet master of the Republican Party, Donald J. Trump. They don't care about anything else. How else can you explain the fact that they are weaponizing hunger? How else can one explain the fact that they refuse to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits and they're hurting their own constituents? The 5 states most impacted by the failure to extend the Affordable Care Act are all led by Republicans. West Virginia, Wyoming, Alaska, Mississippi, and Tennessee. Republicans could care less. How else can you explain the fact that Republicans have canceled votes now for 6 consecutive weeks? Missing in action, taxpayer-funded vacation, running the pedophile protection program while doing nothing to make life better for the American people. It's all because Donald Trump hasn't given them the order to sit down and actually reopen the government and negotiate a bipartisan path forward. What's Donald Trump been doing this weekend? He was on the golf course, spitting in the face of the American people.
Like the video, fair use, reaction clip. Like the video as you guys come in. There's about 76 in the building. It's high and lows in regards to people in the building. Press 3 if you knew where you're watching from. Press 3 if you know where you're watching from. Press 5 if you've been here before, where you're watching from. Let's continue.
Unless it's their guy. This is just another day. See? Unless it's their guy. This is just another day. As many of you know, there have been a few consistent talking points among Republicans over the last year. They say liberals are too woke, they say Democrats are too unwilling to negotiate, and a few Republicans even say some women are too old to date because they don't live at home with their parents anymore. But there is another talking point that's been even louder than the rest.
All those pardons to some very bad people, very unpatriotic people, very evil people. It looks to me like those pardons are worthless.
Did the president even know about these pardons?
The actions of President Biden simply were not all his own actions. And there are major implications to that, including all the pardons that he signed.
If it happened on my watch, I would be able to see it because the next day or sooner I'd be reading about something that I knew nothing about and who the hell signed this. So I almost used the auto pen.
Trump hates the auto pen. The only thing he detests more are murderous dictators, racists,
Dot.
Okay, maybe hate is a strong word. But just for a quick refresher, the auto pen is a tool that presidents have used for decades to sign a multitude of documents, unlike certain celebrities who thankfully respect their fans enough to send them the real deal.
An auto pen is a device that replicates someone's signature. It's something that celebrities often use to sign autographs for fans.
Yes, it is too late to say sorry.
Wait, there's a video. There's a video I want to show. Hold on. And I don't normally agree with TMZ, but I get what he was saying this day. So yeah, let's get to it. Like the video. Fair use reaction clip.
Democrat from the Southwest. I forget if it was New Mexico.
It's New Mexico.
Could do. Isn't that short-sighted in the sense, in concept? But under your theory, which is vote them all out, what do you do? And is this theory limited to just Congress? Because
Wait a minute. Let me go back a little bit more.
office. Even if you like your representative or senator, vote against everybody. They are not a functioning group, and we can send a message to Washington, D.C.
Let me go back a little bit more. Yeah, I don't normally agree with TMZ, but I get what he was saying on this day. Hold on one second. Hold on. Like the videos, y'all come in.
What we expect is keep the government open. Way worse. What we expect is keep the government open.
Hold on, because I got to be careful with music.
Open. It is the baseline job of theirs to compromise and function. They can't. And my movement is called OWTA. Out with their asses. I think the public
should basically coalesce and vote everybody in Congress out of office. Even if you like your representative or senator, vote against everybody. They are not a functioning group. And we can send a message to Washington, D.C. that we expect, baseline expect, that they can function as a body. It happened for 200 years, and it's not happening now, and we should get rid of them all if they can't open this government immediately, because there's going to be a mid-air collision with air traffic controllers who are now working as DoorDash drivers at night. There are people starving, and enough. And you want to play the blame game, you're never going to solve this problem. It's not the Democrats, it's not the Republicans, it's all of them.
So it's an interesting concept, but under your theory, which is vote them all out, what do you do?
Amen to that, Paris. Give your local food bank help if you can. If you got some canned goods, if you got an extra basket, help your friends and family too. But definitely help the local food banks because they are swamped. Thanks for saying that, Paris.
Is this theory limited to just Congress? Because we've got an election next week, for instance, a very hotly contested one in New York City, which I think is a template writ large for the country. So where do you come down on next week's when you do not have an incumbent since Eric Adams withdrew from the race?
It's not about New York. I mean, Mamdani's going to win in New York. We know that. But this is about Congress. This is specifically about Congress. And when I see Mike Johnson with his bullshit talking about, oh, it's the Democrats' fault, allowed Republicans to convene for more than a month, I mean, he's full of shit. And when Chuck Schumer says, we are ready to come to the table. I mean, look, pass a continuing resolution so at least the government is open, and then negotiate with them. And if they won't negotiate, make it part of your campaign. But each side has dug in. They will not compromise, and that's not what we expect. And what we expect is keep the government open, allow people to starve, which is going to happen, and God knows how many suicides when people families and the stress that it causes. And again, with air traffic controllers, what do you think the end game is there when they're already understaffed, when they're already working overtime, when they're not getting a paycheck, being required to work overtime, and then they have to work at night to feed their family? So how do you think that ends? We know how it ends.
You're right. I know. And
so that's why I'm saying Congress. I'm saying Congress.
And there's nothing you can do. Isn't that short-sighted in the sense your theory falls apart because you have congressional elections generally, for the most part, every 2 years.
Right. No, always.
Right. So you have the special elections is what I was thinking. But so you don't have the ability to hold them accountable right now.
No, you don't. And you can't impeach them. So what I'm saying is, look, you should know that if you don't open the government in the next 48 hours, that when your time is up, when we can vote in the primary, because I'm not talking about general elections, I'm saying primary, every single member of Congress, 535 members, senators, representatives, primary them all, and let the people who are running against them in the primaries know our expectation is we're going to vote for you, but we are going to hold you to the same thing we held them to. And if you dare close the government down, we're going to boot your asses out too.
Question, if I'm not mistaken, Congress still gets paid while there's a shutdown.
You're not mistaken, and it is a fucking outrage.
Yeah, and so why shouldn't Congress, if it's a government shutdown, and by the way, they have a lot of immunities. You'll remember during the whole kind of Me Too movement, it became apparent that Congress had immunized or sheltered themselves from full accountability.
They do this all the time. I mean, everything that's onerous applies to everybody but them. And, and again, some of them make so much money that it doesn't really matter. I mean, that paycheck to them doesn't matter. Some it does, but I get it. That's
by the way, some of them make so much money because there are no restrictions on
stocks. Yeah. I mean, it's right. I mean, because they can do insider trading with impunity. So, it's just, it is so outrageous to me that we are watching, these leaders like chumps, and people are actually taking sides and saying, yeah, it's the Democrats. Yeah, it's the Republicans. And when they show polls, the polls are, who do you blame more? I saw this on CNN. The Democrats or the Republicans? And, they're blaming more Republicans than Democrats. But you know what? What about the option both? Because that's going to get more votes than either the Democrats are responsible or the Republicans. People are fed up. And what do? We should not just sit back. We had a congresswoman on TMZ Live this week, and Jasmine Crockett. And, she was saying the flaw in what you're saying is that a lot of people love their congressmen or congresswomen. A lot of people love them, and they're not going to vote against them. I have a congressman who I happen to really, really like, Ted Lieu. He's my congressman, and I really like him. But I'm going to vote against him. And not because I don't like him.
Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. Yes, check on the elderly for sure. For sure. Like the videos you guys come in. Like the videos you guys come in. Like the videos you guys come in. Thanks for being here. We're going to talk TSA, how it's affecting travel.
Understand, the shortage of staff in the Y, but it's just very inconvenient for all passengers.
We're seeing long lines, flight delays, and cancellations at airports around the country as the government shutdown has now dragged on for more than a month. Those air travel issues are piling up, and officials say this is only going. Hello, I'm Christine Pitawanich, tracking your latest headlines. Federal workers at airports across the nation are feeling the pressure. TSA workers and air traffic controllers are considered essential staff and must work during the government shutdown despite not getting paid. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy said some air traffic controllers have called in sick in protest. Others are taking time off to work other jobs until paychecks restart. We've seen ground stops at airports like and Nashville. At Newark Airport in New Jersey, there have been hours-long delays. And in Houston, at times, security lines spilled over outside the airport. At one point, the wait at TSA checkpoints was more than 3 hours long. Hugo Gianluca spoke to travelers in Houston about...
That's a long time. Could you imagine the holidays? You trying to get to family members and you can't get there. A husband's on a trip and his wife is pregnant and he can't get there. My goodness.
Their frustrations.
Got here early, and am I glad I did. Look at this mess.
A mess indeed. Houston airport officials are urging passengers to get here early. This KJ11 viewer, listen to that advice.
You got here 4 hours before your flight. Why is that?
Saw on the news at 6 a.m. KHOU that it was going to be a 3-hour wait, so here we are.
Long security wait times could last as long as the federal government is still shut down due to staff shortages. Some travelers underestimated just how bad it would be.
I think we're going to miss the flight.
How do you feel about that, sir?
Terrible. We're so concerned about it.
What was your reaction when you saw the line?
I want to cancel. She ended up sticking it out. At Bush Airport, only TSA checkpoints at terminals A and E are open for passengers. At Hobby Airport, fewer screening lanes are open with wait times exceeding over an hour. Some passengers were ready to wait.
Get here early and be patient. That's the only thing you can do.
Because you can't control anything else.
No. Everyone's doing the best they can, and I know everyone else is waiting as well, so just understand that.
Meanwhile, others are frustrated. This government shutdown is happening all together.
I'd like to have every congressman standing right behind me going through this same thing so they can see what us Americans are going through because they don't do their job.
Halloween weekend was the worst for air traffic control staffing shortages since the shutdown began on October 1st. That's according to FAA data. There were 98 staffing trigger reports. That's when air traffic controllers have to change operations to keep the airspace safe with fewer people working. It can include derouting planes or delaying flights. Experts have warned travelers would see more flight disruptions the longer federal workers have to go without a paycheck. Brianna Costello spoke with an air traffic controller in Dallas who says he had to pick up another job to support his family.
Safety in the sky is a growing concern as the federal shutdown enters its 5th week.
I don't want to sit down and map out how long I can go. I think that'll cause me more anxiety than anything.
Air traffic controller Jack Chris is one of thousands of federal workers who are working without pay.
Short staffing, high workload, and then not knowing when you're going to get paid, that just sounds like a recipe right there.
Chris spent most of his career at Dallas Love Field before moving to the D.C. area for his 15-year-old daughter last year. He's still going to work, but now he has a second job. He's working for DoorDash to keep food on the table.
The political games have real-life implications, and I just urge Congress to get something passed.
He missed his first full paycheck. Airlines are scrambling to help. In Texas, Love Field is setting up a donation drive, but area food banks are bracing for the impact.
You'll have a lot of people in crisis. They won't have enough food to eat for themselves or for their kids.
Chris knows it's only a matter of time. Something will have to give. He hopes the safety of the flying public is not part of that.
I mean, how can you manage this from an emotional perspective without thinking to yourself, should I do something else?
In Arlington, I'm Brittany Costello.
The FAA previously reported they were already down about 3,000 air traffic controllers nationwide, even before the shutdown. The National Air Traffic Controllers Association represents more than 20,000 controllers. It says many of its members were already working 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, and the shutdown is adding even more strain. Brianna Keeler spoke with
the most woodsy, yummy.
Like the video, fair use, reaction clip. Paris, did you put a message out, then you deleted it? Because I didn't touch it. Like the video, like the video.
Brianna Keeler spoke with the union's president.
The amount of stress, the fatigue, the frustration is growing every day. Air traffic controllers are waking up to a headline that says there's no end in sight, and that leads to a level of homelessness as well. And, there's not even as many air traffic controllers that are working today as there was in the 2019 shutdown, where air traffic controllers are working 6 days a week, 10 hours a day, and that was already an issue that we were working on.
Okay.
And now, every day that this continues, it continues to build, and it continues to put them in a place that is completely unacceptable.
Can you help us visualize what it's like inside of, a tower when there are not enough people?
You start having one person take on multiple tasks where you would normally have that workload divided between controllers. They're going to go to work, they're going to do their job, they're going to keep everyone safe, but you have to start slowing down the number of aircraft that can go through it so one person can handle this level of complexity. This is the most high consequence job in the entire world. You're making 1,000 decisions, in just one rotation to ensure that aircraft move safely in and around the airport or in the sky, and every single time that they have to take on an additional level of responsibility amidst all these other issues is something we have to be concerned about, something we have to manage.
What are the personal financial dilemmas that they're facing right now?
We're not only seeing air traffic controllers already reporting, like, I have no money for gas and to be able to get to work. They're over 1 month at this point without a level of compensation for the amazing work that these patriots do day in and day out. But also on top of that, not having childcare. We're seeing air traffic controllers for their first time starting to resign.
Yeah, people aren't thinking about that. They're going to work, not getting paid. Then they have to take on a second job. Who's watching their kids? How are they able to pay for daycare? It's not just SNAP. There's a lot of federal workers not getting paid.
Trainees that are resigning, and we have certified controllers, and we're getting reports of them resigning over the course of this past week.
You've called for a clean funding bill. That's right?
Yes,
You've called for a clean funding bill. That at this point is the demand of Republicans in the White House as well. You were at the White House roundtable this past week on aviation, travel, and union leaders, and the White House has said they have no intentions to meet with Democrats until the government is reopened. Have you been able to speak to Democratic House and Senate, especially leadership, about what your folks need?
We have, and our message has been consistent from the very beginning. 1 day of a shutdown was too much.
That's true. It's the kids that suffer in the long run. It's their parents are not getting paid from their first job and they got to go get a second job. Who's watching their kids? Oh, I couldn't imagine having young children right now.
Air traffic controllers cannot be used as a political pawn, and I can help everyone know the end of this story. People can't live without one. It's putting us in a position to for an air traffic controller to have to not only deal with this profession, but then weigh.
And be careful, because let's be very clear. Be careful who you have watching your children. There's some weird people out there. Parents got to be very careful, and they sacrifice, and people sacrifice putting having their children around certain people because they have to work 2 jobs right now, and parents cringe dropping their children off to certain people. But sometimes they feel like I have to do this because, they may only charge me $20, $100 for the full week. This place may charge me $200 for the full week. So parents right now, and then along with that, there's groceries. There's medical bills. There's a lot that's going on.
Going home and having to have the consequences of being at a home and trying to explain to your family that you're going to go into one of the most demanding jobs in the world and you don't know when you're going to get paid again. Our message is simple. Open the government, and it has to open now. That's the real issue, and that's the only way that this is going to be solved.
You've been through this, time and again, and the threat of it time and again. Now, right? This is becoming a kind of regular thing, but I don't know that we've ever seen it threaten in recent history. A holiday season, kind of at a critical point in the shutdown, right?
Air traffic, we're worried about that as well.
Talk to us about that. What happens if we get to the Thanksgiving travel rush?
There's a lot of things that doing this job for 23 years that I can predict or I can tell you and explain. I have no idea how to explain what it would look.
And it's busy now. People want to get to their families for the holidays. Some people work so much, a lot of times they can't really see certain family members until the holidays. So if it's busy now, I can't even imagine for the holidays. You almost got to get to the airport hours before or pick a flight. That's the first, flight that's going out or the second flight that's going out.
Like if we get to the holiday rush and we're still dealing with a government shutdown. The number of issues are growing daily when air traffic controllers can't drive to work already and don't have gas or childcare. And then we're talking about it lasting all the way to the holidays. It's not something I can sit here and tell the flying public, America, in any way, shape, or form of what that would look like.
Yeah, a lot of us know unfortunate, crazy stories. So that's why parents that have to work 2 jobs right now just to make ends meet. That's what I'm saying. To have a young child, parents not being able to feed them with their stamps being cut in half, or not getting the stamps at all, or there's delays, and then if a parent has to work two jobs, you don't want to drop them off to XYZ. I know family stories myself, so there's just a lot going on, y'all. Let's continue.
Would you feel safe flying?
I feel safe because of the hardworking men and women that I represent. They are showing up. And to every single person that shows up each day, each moment, they're the
My heart goes out too, for real.
ones shouldering this burden of the shutdown. And it's something that we have to recognize them for, is that they're taking on this on when it has nothing to do with them whatsoever. And it's, again, why we're calling this shutdown has to end now. These hardworking Americans need to be paid.
Do you feel safer when they're not dealing with these kinds of issues?
No, every day this continues, this system will be less safe. Tomorrow will be less safe than today. And because of that, and it's our job to communicate for the safety of the flying public, it's why the traffic has to reduce, why things have to slow down, because we cannot put these men and women dealing with this job on top of this prolonged shutdown.
The last time the government shut down was in December of 2018 during President Trump's first term.
2018.
That was the longest shutdown in U.S. history, stretching 35 days. Air traffic controllers played a key role in ending that shutdown. Sick calls led to ground stops and delays at some of the country's busiest airports. And when that happened, lawmakers reached a deal pretty quickly. This time around, Republicans and Democrats still don't seem any closer to resolving their stalemate. Meantime, travel insurance might be on many people's minds if the shutdown stretches into the busy holiday travel season. After the break, what one expert is recommending for your travel plans.
Yeah, travel insurance will definitely be worth it, because if you miss your flight, you know what I mean?
If you've got a menopause mustache,
Like the video, fair use reaction clip. Like the video as you guys, and let me know in the comments, are any of you traveling? How is it where you're traveling? Are any of you traveling right now? Hold on. Like the video as you guys come in.
For the holidays are keeping a close eye on the government shutdown and its impact on air travel. Some might even be looking at travel insurance to plan ahead for any disruptions. Amy Steigerwald spoke to an expert for what you need to know.
I'm flying today on sheer faith.
Uncertainty at airports across the country continues as the government shutdown pushes forward. And if you're planning to travel for the holidays, travel insurance might be on your mind.
Since COVID, we've seen really a significant and steady increase in the purchase of travel insurance.
Robert Gallagher with the U.S. Travel Insurance Association says the commercial aviation industry has seen a number of issues over the past few years with technology, infrastructure, and now a government shutdown. If you're planning to purchase any type of travel insurance policy, he recommends looking for trip delay and trip interruption coverage, especially when flying.
Read the policy and understand what it is that you're buying, and make sure that the policy includes coverage for risks that concern you.
Whether you're booking a trip through a travel agent or a provider direct outlet, reading your policy all the way through is important to
even domestically, there are benefits, there are coverages within a domestic travel insurance policy that are worth the additional cost.
And if you're traveling soon, make sure to check your flight status before heading to the airport. You can use your airline's app for that. The FAA also has this site that you can check to see if there are any widespread delays at your airport. You can look up National Airspace System Status to find it. If you're at the airport already and your flight has been canceled, get in line at customer service, but also make a phone call, go online, or you can also message them on social media. Sometimes that gets a faster response. Airlines will rebook you for free, but you should know during the busy holiday season, you might have to wait days for a seat on a new flight. Airlines also are not required to put you on another carrier's flight if you want to book with another airline. And if you decide not to travel or you find another way to get there, you're entitled to a full refund, even on non-refundable tickets, plus any bag or seat fees that you paid. And remember, U.S. airlines don't have to pay cash compensation or cover hotels and meals for delays. Policies vary, and each airline is different. The Transportation Department has this website that details what your airline offers. Many are stepping in to help impacted federal employees. In Charlotte, North Carolina, the owner of a gas station gave away free gas to TSA and air traffic control employees at the airport. The owner said he wanted to do his part to help those who serve us.
I travel. My family travels. We traveled this past weekend. It is extremely important, and we all see what's going on the news. People not being able to get to work, people wanting to come to work but can't. So this is just one of those little things that the community has always been really good to me. And this is something that I felt compelled to try to give back a little bit when I can.
He says they gave out at least 1,500 gallons of gas to TSA and air traffic controllers. As the shutdown drags on, money is running low for many federal workers. Many of them who have been furloughed or working without pay are taking to side jobs just to make ends meet. Dan Kennedy is in Atlanta with more.
Vile thought she would retire at the CDC. She spent 8 years there doing violence prevention research. Now she's without her job and looking for a new way to earn a living.
Luckily, I have a hobby. I am a florist by hobby, and now I'm going to transition and build that business and do more events.
The Floral Factor was once Lay's side project. Now she's trying to turn it into a full-time business.
People who are similar in my position, it's just having to turn to dog sitting and anything to make ends meet is just, that's tough.
The government shutdown is forcing even more people to go without pay. That's why former CDC employee Sarah Boehm launched this talent marketplace website on Friday. It's a place for fired or furloughed federal workers to list their skills and find short-term work.
Like I said, dog walking, babysitting, music lessons, tutoring. If people are getting in the holiday mood, there's people who can do jewelry design, baking, gift wrapping, all kinds of different things.
Behind those listings include microbiologists, epidemiologists, and behavioral scientists like Lay, just looking for a new way to get by.
Our passion has been to help people, and so I think that even for these services that, you know, aren't necessarily their expertise, I think they're going to do a great job.
She thought she'd retire at the CDC. Now Lay's part of a growing number of people piecing together a paycheck. Dan Kennedy, 11 Alive News.
The impacts of the federal shutdown continuing to be felt across the country. We'll stay on top of developments and to bring you the very latest. For now, I'm Christine Fedowanich. Thanks for watching.
Like the video, fair use, reaction clip. Like the video as you guys come in.
As the government shutdown triggers even more flight delays. This was the scene this morning at Bush Intercontinental in Houston. Long lines at security, and this past weekend was the worst for air traffic control staffing since the shutdown began more than a month ago. CNN aviation correspondent Pete Montine is here in the Situation Room with us. You've been looking through, Pete, the FAA operations plans. What will today and the coming days be like?
Well, the FAA just updated the list, and the responsible for flights approaching Newark Liberty International Airport is short-staffed today. Also, the center facility responsible for high-altitude flights around New York. Those are the two spots of concern so far. But history has shown that things can change pretty fast. It's pretty close to how Friday started, which kicked off the worst weekend for air traffic control staffing shortages since the start of the shutdown 34 days ago. This is what we've been monitoring. It's called the FAA National Airspace Operations Plan, published every few shows air traffic control facilities with short staffing. And on a normal day, there might be 1 or 2 facilities here. On Friday, this was the list, 46 different facilities. The 3 New York City airports have been especially hard hit. And the FAA says on Friday, those facilities saw nearly 80% of controllers call out. And that is what creates the bind. And the FAA says it has no choice in some cases but to slow the pace of flights and put into place delays or ground stops. I want you to listen now to what Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy said about that.
Well, does it become a flight emergency, a safety issue? No, we will stop traffic. So we're not going to let that happen. I think the real consequence is what kind of rolling delays do you have throughout the system, right? We've seen problems at LA, in Dallas, in DC, Boston, Atlanta. And so I think it's only going to get worse.
Seems like no place is safe right now. In all, this weekend saw more than 16,000 flight delays nationwide. Remember, air traffic controllers still working without pay during this shutdown. That $0 paycheck they received just last Tuesday was insult to injury. And Duffy said on Sunday the White House is looking for what he calls pots of money to get controllers paid again, but he says the rules there are pretty strict. By the way, TSA agents also working without pay. No major surprise on day 34 of the shutdown. There were delays at TSA checkpoints as well. This was the line at George Bush Intercontinental Airport in Houston. At one point, the TSA line there stretched 3 hours long. But the TSA posted this morning that when you consider the wait times nationwide, they average about 5 minutes yesterday for standard screening. They said 2.11 minutes, very exact, for pre-check, and they screened about 2.7 million people nationwide. It's up about 1% when you consider the same time a year ago. The big thing here is these people have to get paid, and this is the human toll of this government shutdown, and it's having a real impact on travelers with Thanksgiving not far off on the horizon.
Yeah, and you were just traveling over the weekend. Well, it was okay.
I was really lucky. My flight from LAX, Los Angeles, to Washington Reagan National Airport left on time and arrived on time. I was just pretty lucky.
It's a bit scattershot, and I hear from people who get hit by the delays and also people who have no problems. So the real thing here is when there's weather in the mix, on top of air traffic and staffing shortages, that can cause the whole deck of cards to come tumbling down.
And we've seen it happen. All right, Pete Montine, thank you so much.
We're joined by Nick Daniels, the president of the National Air Traffic Controllers Association. What are you hearing now as we are looking at what really look like new images?
Okay, everyone, I have some things I have to take care of. Copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, commas, news reporting, teaching, scholarships and research. fair use is use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. All comments are alleged in our opinion and for entertainment purposes only. I hope everyone has an amazing day. Focus on healthy, safe relationships. Be around people that's loving, kind, and respectful. Have a great day, everyone. Goodbye. Be blessed. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Bye, Paris. Bye, Paris. I don't know. Let me hit it again.